Who are you really / it makes me shake. This is a story that's hard to share, but also it's something I desperately need to get off of my chest. It's a story about learning the true meaning of naivete and deception. A story of destruction and of rebirth. I guess it all started about 3 or 4 years ago, when I had been working at my first job for about 2 years. That was the year that I would meet the two men that changed my life forever. One for the better and one for the much worse. The restaurant I worked at had been bought out by a big company, so there was a big overhaul in staff and everything else. A whole new set of managers and some new wait staff as well. One of these men would become my boyfriend 3 years later, and we're still very much in love now. The other. Let's just call him Poss because I can't even think of his name without getting upset. Poss started as a manager at that time. I never took much note of him. He was nice enough and seemed funny. I worked there for a while, getting closer as a friend to my current boyfriend. I then left the job for a good 6 months before returning to it. At this point most of the staff had changed because of high turnover. I only knew about 3 of the workers, one of which was Poss. Flash to about 1 year later where him and I are okay friends and I'm well into dating my boyfriend. He starts telling me compliments and love bombing me. He constantly found my weak spots and tried to make them better. He always tried to buy me things and get me to work more hours with him. I learned many things about him during this time. I started to notice how very unstable he was. The dots started to connect and I remembered how many fights he'd gotten into in his defense or for the restaurant .. I stared thinking about his weapon collection and how off his voice was when he said I had you picked out from the moment I met you. In my biggest moment of weakness when I felt ugly and vulnerable he made me feel pretty and I made what I believe is the biggest mistake in my entire life. I listened to him. I sent him pictures that could destroy my relationship. I was naive in believing in all the ways he related to me. He was just a great liar. He even joked to me about his masks and his 9 other personalities. I want to go back and slap myself for not putting it all together faster. The crazed look he got in his eyes sometimes, his breakdowns, so much of it were red flags that I didn't see. He knew how to manipulate me and the people around me. None of it even hit until about a week after I quit that place. Then one night out of the blue he starts messaging me. Things start escalating because I had told him there would never be anything between us the last time I'd seen him. He starts ranting about justice and how he could see through me and my lies. He said I needed to tell my boyfriend about us or he would. I told him there wasn't an us and that it wasn't his business. He kept insisting that he loved me and that we needed to be together. He couldn't take no for an answer. Even though he kept asking and asking for me to tell him it was over. I told him and he couldn't take it. He kept calling me a crazy bitch and trying to gaslight me. I'm thankful that I was strong enough not to believe him and to completely cut him off from my life. Then it got worse. He started talking in third person. Calling himself Jack the Ripper. Saying he was going to find me and find my boyfriend. I was panicking in my room crying and throwing up all while trying to deal with this. I asked him what he wanted and all he said back was you. I've never felt that kind of fear before. I started thinking about how much I love my boyfriend. My amazing perfect boyfriend who has been with me through everything and I calmed down. That's when I marched to my boyfriend's room, sit him down and tell him everything. And we talk and he forgave me. And it hurt and I still haven't completely forgiven myself for hurting him that way but I'm hoping one day I will. I messaged Poss and told him I already told my boyfriend and that he didn't have any more power over me. He then started grasping at straws. Threatening my other job, where I work with children, even threatening my PlayStation account. He's a genius. He's insane. I called him by his name while he was talking in other personalities and he told me to call him Jack or there would be consequences. I blocked him on everything. I deleted my Facebook. I disconnected myself from everyone who works there and I spent an entire day speaking to police and the principal of my work. While talking to the police they told me that soon he'll find someone new to target so I could rest easy. But that didn't make me feel better. I still felt sick because even if he's not fixated on me that doesn't mean some other poor girl deserves him to do that to her. That experience with the police changed me. What do you do when someone says you have to be with them or he'll kill you and the person you love? I didn't know, and I still don't. I still have nightmares. That Friday while I was driving home from work I got pulled over because an anonymous person called in describing my car and license plate saying I was drunk and on drugs. Wonder who that was. I calmly explained to the officer that I was coming home from work and gave him my case number. I got about 8 calls a day from different random numbers for about 3 days after. Months later after so much therapy and work I see him twice. In one day. I know his car so I pretty much get anxious whenever I see the color or make of that car anywhere. One day my worst fear happened. I was just on my way to a doctor's appointment and my turn was literally one light up. I pull up to a car that is way too familiar to me and I notice that there is no way for me to escape. He knows my car. My windows aren't well tinted. I see the shadow of his hair move and know it's him and my stomach rolls. I pull out my phone and call my mom, shaking so bad I had to redial twice. I ended up make 5 different turns to get to the doctor instead of one and I parked very hidden. I was very proud of how calm I was when I walked in for my appointment. It was very hard. After my appointment I meet with my best friend and we go to walk her adorable dogs around her house. This guy knew where we were because my car was right there at my friend's house. And I see familiar movement from the corner of my eye. I seriously went cold. I see him walking and start to cross the street to the side where we are at. I didn't even say anything. I just dragged the dogs around the corner and kept turning and going until I felt safe. When I explained to my friend what happened she helped me calm down and honestly I'm just very thankful she was there. I am now writing this 7 months later. I'm still undergoing therapy from this but I have started to do something very important. I've been reclaiming my space in my mind. I have slowly started to reach out to old coworkers from that restaurant. And I even went outside of the restaurant to say hi to managers and servers I used to know. I found out the next day through my good friend that works there that he said he was uncomfortable with me being there. I laughed. I genuinely laughed really hard. And then I went back for the next 3 days to pick my friend up from there. Just to make a point. I haven't been strong enough to go inside yet though. So many of my nightmares are placed there. I can smell it, I can hear the glasses clinking and it makes me shake. There's a certain shade of blue he wears, and if I see it it makes me shake. In every dream I have that color is always lurking in the background. His presence is always felt. There is a big festival that includes that restaurant every year. It's so much fun and it would be the first year I could go in 4 years because I always worked it. My friend invited me to go and I was hesitant at first because this is somewhere I knew he would be. But I went. And sure enough when we passed the restaurant he was wearing the blue shirt. And instead of seeing him from the corner of my eye like I had on my dream, I looked him in the face. I got so angry. Was just insanely pissed off. And honestly pretty anxious. I just kept walking and forced myself out of the funk. I will be posting updates if anything more happens. Thank you so much for sharing this journey with me. Thank you for reading if you did, in fact, read any of it. This is the deepest story of my heart at this point on my life. So by reading it, you are given a great piece of me.